Repealed. We are in the studio. It is Thursday, not Wednesday, because I have a guest today. I'm delighted to have Melissa Blasek here. We are, as we always do, actually in the studio and talking that way. So we will catch you all on the flip side. Thank you so much for joining us. This is The Independent with Carla Gericke.
Coming to you live from the heart of the great state of New Hampshire. This is The Independent with Carla Gericke.
Last chance to fix my hair.
And now,
Green light.
Carla Gericke.
Hey guys, and welcome back to The Independence. We are streaming at a strange time. Today is a Thursday. Of course, usually we're here on a Wednesday. And I'm delighted to have a guest in the studio with me today, Melissa Blasek. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for changing your day for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, some people are worth the wait. Before we dive into what is going to be a fascinating discussion, Melissa is the director of Rebuild New Hampshire. We've done a lot of work together over the years, and I thought it would be helpful for you folks back home to just hear about the bills she's been working on, what's been going on at the State House. But before we get into that, it is my reminder, Liberty Forum is coming up on March 5th. So if you live in the great state of New Hampshire, or perhaps even in some of the surrounding states, please do get your Liberty Forum tickets. We're delighted to announce that Tom Woods, the veritable Tom Woods, will be our keynote speaker on Saturday evening. That's our VIP big grand dinner. But of course, there are a slew of incredible guests who are coming. The Defend the Guard dudes are coming. Of course, Scott Horton, who's always a fantastic speaker, kind of a firebrand. We'll be talking about housing. We'll be talking about the community. We'll be talking about dialogue series. One of my questions to our greater Free State Liberty community here in New Hampshire is, what should we be measuring? So, you know, as we build out this free state here in New Hampshire, it takes all kinds. It takes all kinds of alliances, and it really takes the people who just show up. And Melissa, you're one of those people. So, you know, I've been doing this sort of as a test. I just told her before the show, I like to pull my bios from the AI and then vet them online and live with everyone so that we can see how well are they doing their work. So Melissa is the executive director of Rebuild New Hampshire, which is a 501c4 grassroots organization founded by libertarian activists and dedicated to promoting individual liberty, limited government, and personal freedoms here in New Hampshire. You're a former state Republican rep from Merrimack, where we will not have an ice facility. I am happy to say personally. And you served in the House from 2020 to 2022. Some of us might call those the spicy COVID years.
Man, and I just ran in there charging head first.
and it was fantastic to see. So you were out there, as was I, you know, a lot of us doing sort of frontline work, but really you advocating against vaccine mandates. And of course, talking about things like the optional choice of wearing masks, the optional choice of getting a vaccine, and really helping people to understand mandates are force.
Yes.
So I think we should just really sort of dive right into the issue. So there was just recently a vaccine mandate bill. It was House Bill 1811, and that failed on a fairly narrow vote. I mean, it was like 30 spread, 30 reps spread.
We might have actually had it if the amendment hadn't gone sideways, but yes, it was close.
Okay,
and we were the first state in the country to even get a bill like this to the floor.
Wow.
To even get a positive recommendation out of committee. So a lot of people,
So let's start with what was the bill?
Right. So HB 1811 would have repealed all K through 12 and daycare vaccine mandates by the state.
Okay.
And every single state in the country has at least some amount of mandated vaccines for daycare and school attendance. And we got the closest. How about that? There have been several attempts. It's actually making a lot of headlines, right? Florida made a ton of headlines.
Okay.
Because the governor there in September, along with the Surgeon General, called for ending the vaccine mandates, but they couldn't even get a bill introduced in their legislature.
Wow.
I called the Florida Health Department, and they had worked all fall to try to get someone to even introduce a bill to do with that, and they could not.
So they couldn't find a sponsor.
Mhm.
So that does show really how unique New Hampshire
Yes.
is in so many ways. You know, sometimes people will complain because we have 400 state reps. And if you're doing, as you do, kind of soft lobbying,
Yep.
I guess,
Yep.
right? It's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of people. It's a
Yes.
lot of conversations. But on the plus side of that, it makes it a lot harder to bribe, right? And it usually means you can find someone.
100%. I think our secret sauce is three things. Our citizen, volunteer legislature, the fact that there are 400 people, therefore their races don't cost a lot of money.
Yep.
Therefore, they don't need special interest money. And then number three, that every single bill gets a hearing, every single bill gets a vote by the full body. There's only one other state in the country like that. And every other state, either the chair of the committee can just decide, nope, that bill never sees the light of day. The speaker sometimes has that kind of
Mhm.
power. I think that's such unequal representation.
Right.
The fact that your rep might have all this power, but your other rep has no power.
Exactly.
Right? It's so bizarre to me. That really makes us, and we got really far with it. So the bill ought to pass with amendment out of committee. The amendment did tailor it back down to, well, you have mandates, but we're going to have a philosophical exemption, meaning I never understand this logic, but they all seem to be okay with having a mandate where everyone's exempt. I don't really get it, but that's where a lot of them are at.
Is it like the double negative? Like,
Yes.
yes,
but,
no?
Yeah, and it would have ended all of the vaccine mandates except for the polio vaccine. Now, what
Okay.
happened on the floor, unfortunately, is that the amendment went sideways, and I did not expect that. I thought it was going to go through in a voice vote. It did not go through in a voice vote. It was a division vote. It failed by 6 votes because every Democrat voted against the committee amendment, which I didn't expect that either.
Wow.
And
Was
then
that
people
sort of
panicked.
lockstep for the Democrats? Do they don't really have flexibility to vote their conscience? They
That
were
is
kind of
correct,
told?
especially on this particular issue. I have been told that since RFK got put in HHS, like that's it.
Because-
You will line up on this issue against the Republicans on this no matter what.
Which is so weird because look, I moved to New Hampshire 20 years ago from New York City, where the Brooklyn mommies back in the day, like everyone was kind of anti-vax.
Yeah.
It was like a left issue.
It used to be, yeah, very much so, and it flipped so bizarrely.
So, which is exactly the same thing which happened with immigrants, by the way, because I remember coming to America in 1996 and how anti-immigrant the Democrats were, and the Republicans were like, no, people should work. We like work. We're American exceptionalism,
Yeah.
the American dream,
Yeah.
all of that. And it's flipped. And it's interesting because you can input that into the AI and actually have it break down how it happened and how that language is flipped. And that has made me realize maybe it's a shell game, Melissa. Maybe we fight each other while government grows. All right, so you weren't expecting the amendment.
I
to
was
go
not expecting the
sideways.
amendment to go sideways because I thought the Democrats would want to kind of water down the bill, but they didn't. So things went sideways, and the problem was that we had been, lobbying people based off of the committee amendment, and unfortunately, it's just kind of human nature. People panic in the moment,
Right.
and I think what we got there was a lot of people. Well, we need to have polio now. Again, my argument against vaccine mandates has nothing to do with the particular diseases, has nothing to do with the particular vaccines. Good ideas do not require force.
Yes.
You should be able to use the power of persuasion. And in most countries in the world, even first world countries, vaccines are not mandated. And yet most people do get vaccinated because of persuasion and not the boot of government.
Right.
So I will say I was a little bit surprised by some of the people I was having arguments with about this. Even, some of our free state legislators were arguing with me about diseases and vaccines. All of that is completely irrelevant to the argument.
Irrelevant. I was so shocked.
You can still get your vaccines. This doesn't change vaccine availability. It doesn't change doctor recommendations. Most children are fully vaccinated according to their doctor's recommendations long before they enter school, and therefore the de facto mandate begins. Right. The only thing that this bill would change is, do I have to, when my child is 5 years old and goes off to kindergarten, hand the government a little piece of paper that says whether they are vaccinated or not? That would be the only thing that would change. And yet the fact that I was having liberty arguments over this with people who are pro-liberty, Travis, he gave an entire explanation, which to me was so backwards, about how you have to give up liberty in a free society, and that's why we all need to get vaccinated. Great. Well, then why can't you persuade people? Why do you
So he's pro-conscription? Isn't that the same argument?
Yes.
Okay.
Why do you have to hold the gun of government to people's heads to force them to do something?
Well, while claiming to be an ANCAP and being the keynote speaker at the New Hampshire Libertarian Party convention that's coming up in March. I feel like it is worth standing still with that for just a second, because I was deeply shocked. Like, I was just like, wait a second. Like, it feels to me like, from a liberty perspective, you look at the mandate, and that's where it stops, right? Yep. We don't, as libertarians, as liberty lovers, as people who believe in self-ownership, we don't think the government should be able to tell us what to force into our bodies. Yep. It's as basic as like self-ownership 101, right? Yep. And then to say, well, yeah, that's kind of an argument, but not when my risk profile demands something else, and I think polio, right? Yeah. Because it's like, who cares? Polio, HPV, Hep B, whatever, right? Yeah. Like, everyone could have a different feel for it. So it's a first principle issue. It's an issue of, no, we believe in bodily autonomy. Yes. And we, as free humans, get to decide what we do with our bodies. We don't have liberty reps up at the State House going, well, I think we should mandate it for the things that I like. Yeah, exactly. And my other argument that I've made a lot about this issue is, you do not have informed consent if you don't have the ability to actually say no, right? And then when people make this argument of like, well, you have to. You are also, if you are accepting that the government can mandate a medical intervention, you have to understand that every single medical intervention has a certain amount of risk. There is no such thing as a risk-free medical intervention. So what you're saying then is that it's okay to sacrifice some people for others, right? If you are, if you get to freely choose to take a medical intervention and you end up with some type of injury or something, that was still your choice, and now you're accepting the repercussions of it. But when you have the government involved in mandating something, and then that person ends up harmed in some way, then you are saying that, well, as a society, it is okay to sacrifice some people for other people. Well, I actually think that is exactly what they believe. Yes. I actually think that is the ethical stance, in giant air quotes, stance of Fauci's wife, who of course was the ethicist who oversaw mad scientist Fauci's reign of terror up in DC. And I almost feel like it's the worst of socialism, right? Because what you're basically saying is, hey, we don't really know if these things work, so if we all take it, then it's just luck. Yes. Right? And I my favorite analogy of it, and actually Representative Potenza said this on the floor in support of the bill. So if you're accepting that, logical fallacy, then you are also saying, well, then I think we should be able to kill one person, harvest their organs to save
12 others.
Right.
Right. And of course,
Don't be giving them bad ideas here, Melissa. You
but
know?
no, but if you accept that, and everybody in society would think, oh no, never.
Right.
That sounds crazy. We would never do that. This isn't different.
Right.
So yeah, that was a big one. I told everybody, I made an announcement in August.
Are you going to bring it back?
Yes, I made an
For
announcement
sure.
in August, and I said, I will start from this position every single year
Nice.
until it happens. I always knew this was going to be a
Yep.
multi-year effort, but my
And
position to
honestly,
begin
for
with-
that spread, so 40.
Yeah.
So about 40 people were short on the roll call vote. Of course, the
Yep.
roll call vote, really glad we pulled it, right?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have known this about
Yeah.
Travis by way of example. And not to just single him out, but I'm singling him out because he claims to be a property rights expert who is speaking at like liberty conventions. And I'm
Right.
like, this is I was shocked that
Yeah.
people are like, oh, you're just being mean. And I'm like, no, I'm expressing my shock and frankly my horror
Mhm.
because that is a very basic
Very.
property rights
Mhm.
issue.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to use this as my starting place. I am willing to negotiate down from this point
Yep.
every year. And we still do have a bunch of medical freedom bills that did make it over to the
oh,
Senate.
nice.
So we have a HEPI repeal, for instance.
Great.
I'm going to try to maybe work in some type of non-germane amendment to get a philosophical exemption, or we're calling it a conscientious exemption because
Okay.
it's more aligned with New Hampshire Constitution
Right.
language.
I like that
Um,
because one of the things I like to talk about during COVID was this sort of lost right of conscience that we don't talk about that is actually enshrined in legal disciplines, in our Constitution,
Mhm.
and all these things. And people don't like talking about it because they don't want to concede the right that you're allowed to believe what you want to believe and you're allowed to tell everyone no.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Absolutely.
And we call that freedom, right?
So speaking of freedom,
Yep.
my other
Parental freedom, right?
yes,
Yep.
one of my other really big bills this year is HB 1268, which is a complete and total homeschool deregulation bill. It would make us the second state in the country to deregulate homeschooling via legislation.
Next to Florida again?
No, they still have regulation next to Wyoming. I
Okay,
believe.
cool.
And I believe that this bill will make us the freest state when it comes to homeschooling in the entire country because it completely flips the presumption that parents have to have documentation to prove that they're educating their child to a presumption that they have the natural right to educate their child
Nice.
and that the government must prove that they have not
That-
innocent until proven guilty, right? So in that way, it would create a new layer of protection really for
Right.
homeschooling parents that other states don't have and that we don't currently have. And it removes all of the current requirements, which are, I mean, honestly, there's sort of requirements in quotes. You're supposed to send in a letter of intent when you begin homeschooling just one time. And then you're supposed to keep a portfolio and you're supposed to do some type of year-end evaluation. You have different options for that, but you just keep them for your own records. You don't actually send them as anywhere. So this would get rid of all of those requirements, and I'm ready to go. But I will say,
And that one was House Bill 1268, right? And so
1268.
where are we with that one?
that one is getting voted on by the committee on Monday. I feel very confident about it. I actually feel very confident about it all the way through. I believe really strongly that this will be law by the end of the year.
I like that belief,
I
and
know,
I will
I-
support that belief.
But I'm going to tell you, I have been shocked. Talk about, horror by the level of statism, even amongst homeschoolers. I mean, folks, if you're homeschooling your child, you're already outside of the norm, right? Outside of the system. And yet we've had some resistance from people. They want their government blankies. Like they view these requirements as like some type of safety blanket, and that's not true. It's not proof of anything.
Right.
DCYF could still come in and accuse you.
So
of
it's
whatever.
parents who are kind of against it?
There are some. I think they're a vocal minority, but
Okay.
2-1 we had people supporting the bill, and really those who opposed the bill officially, in the
Right.
sign-ins, were for the most part like anti-homeschooling leftists. You know what
Okay.
I mean?
Again, another issue that kind of has flipped over time when you
Mhm.
gotta
Yep.
ask yourself.
It is interesting, but yeah, no, I have said it and I'll keep saying it. Even if I have to pull some people over the line of freedom, kicking and screaming, I will do that.
So this one then means that the state wouldn't even know if you're homeschooling?
Correct. Every child that is not in school is presumed to be homeschooled and therefore exempt from compulsory education laws and exempt from truancy laws.
Wow.
Mhm.
So this could be a big deal because, that is one of the value propositions of what we're building up here in New Hampshire, of course, is more choice. Like, I
Yes.
actually think we're like the choice movement,
Yeah.
right? Which is, of course, another term that has been polluted over the years. It's almost like they don't want us to be able to come up with a cogent story that people could understand that, hey, letting more people choose more things creates more happy people,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that could be a massive value proposition, right?
Yep.
For people here. Of course, the quality of living is so good here
Mhm.
already. Even though we have a lot of snow this season,
Yep.
sledding could certainly be some form of homeschooling, can it not?
Because my child's homeschooled. We are in a homeschooling group, and it's just for socialization. We meet once a week, and we either go to a playground or we go to a hike. And so, yeah, in the winter, it's sledding.
Right.
That's what the kids do. They go sledding
Wonderful.
together once a week. And actually, I will say New Hampshire has really a thriving homeschooling community, and a long history of homeschooling. I've been homeschooled in New Hampshire since 1998.
Wow.
And now I'm the second generation
Generation.
homeschooling, and we've had really good laws, and they've gotten better over the years. Actually, my board, one of our co-founders of RebuildNH, J.R. Hole, he was a big part of improving homeschool laws in the early 2000s. He really
Right.
went through and made a lot of things more optional. We used to have
Yeah, I think he was kind of like one of my first local friends, right?
Yeah.
That we worked on bills and stuff
Yes,
together.
no,
with.
he's
Yeah.
awesome. Used to, when I was a kid, you were asking permission from government to homeschool your child. So you had to send in an outline of your curriculum, and you were asked, technically, even though it wasn't like they ever said no, but you were asking permission every single year. That is not the case anymore. You just declare. But now we'll be all I'm like, listen, we're taking off the training wheels. That's what freedom's about,
And so help me understand, because everything changes so fast.
Mhm.
Do homeschool children we still have money follows the child? And so if you're fully homeschooled, are
Mhm.
you still getting funds?
No.
Okay.
So in New Hampshire, we might be the only state that ended up separating out our
I
school
kind of
choice
like that the
program.
answer was no, to be
Me
honest.
too. That made me a lot more comfortable. So there are two legal tracks. There is like the 193A is what we call it track, which is fully unfunded. You are a pure homeschooler, and this bill will only apply to those people.
Okay.
Okay. And then there are the education freedom account students, and
Okay.
some of them are homeschooled, some of them go to private school, right?
Good.
But they are legally separate, and this bill does not apply to them.
Okay. And so the EFAs, that's more in the Claremont, and all of the money follows the child, all of
Mhm.
that is on that side of
Yes,
things.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
So-
I'm an unfunded homeschooler, right? And so,
So this is more the purist track, I suppose, would
Yep,
be
that
the
would be
way
me.
to,
Exactly.
to look at it.
Yeah.
All right, so we do have about 5 minutes left.
Yep.
So you think this goes to committee on Monday,
Yep.
then it goes to the floor
Yep, it'll be on the floor. Probably
Wednesday
next
or
week.
Thursday,
Yeah,
right?
probably the following week. And
Um,
I feel like I said, I haven't met a Republican legislator who has any concerns about homeschooling in like a
Right.
couple of decades.
Right,
So,
okay.
I feel really confident.
So am I remembering correctly, though, that there was a parental rights bill that came up last year and it didn't actually pass? Like, what
No,
was?
we did pass a
Oh,
parent
it
bill.
did?
Yes. It was parental rights in education.
Okay.
It was more leaning towards like like public schools. Like, this is what the schools can't do to parents, kind of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, not so much. However, we do have this year CACR 24, so that's a constitutional amendment,
Yep.
enshrining a parent's
Right.
right in educating their child, whatever that may be,
Right.
right? Public school, private school, charter school, homeschool. And it basically just says a parent has a natural and inherent right to educate their child.
And I love that, right?
Mhm.
That's one of the things I really do like about New Hampshire's system is that we don't have referendums.
Yeah,
We
yes.
don't have, these sort of bottom up stuff, but we
Mhm.
do use our constitutional amendment process.
Yes.
And we do actually change things. Like in the
Yep.
18 years I've been here, we've had 2 constitutional amendments to
Yep.
extend privacy to people
Yep.
and to give standing in lawsuits where, they're using taxpayer money against the interests of the citizens.
Yep.
So this could be really exciting,
Yeah.
and it would really just enshrine it. So help folks just understand, like, why do we care about parental rights?
Why do we care about parental rights? Well, I mean, I think there's really nothing almost more ancient or fundamental of a right than
Then
Then
to
a-
oversee your children.
to oversee your children. I mean, you can kind of go back into any kind of ancient law and really find evidence of that right.
I mean, it's
Um,
almost topsy-turvy to me that we're
Yeah.
at this stage where we actually have to definitively
Say that.
state things, because of course that's also a perversion of how the system works now. Is people will argue if it's not specifically um, uh, um, prohibited,
Yes.
then it's not allowed,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
it's like, that's not how positive and negative rights
Rights
were
work.
supposed to work.
Exactly. And I mean, I just think back, it wasn't that long ago that homeschooling was illegal.
Right.
Pre 1990 in New Hampshire, you had to prove like educational hardship to the government to be able to homeschool your child.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't actually really legalized, like as something that anyone could
Right.
do until 1990, and that's pretty much the case across the country. I mean, I remember seeing a picture of Amish men being lined up and taken off to prison in handcuffs for homeschooling their children.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And actually, Pennsylvania still has some of the worst homeschool laws because they seem to have this thing about the Amish.
Right. Well,
God bless the Amish.
they don't, and yes, literally, and they rebuilt all of the Carolinas after the hurricane and the floods and all of that.
Yes.
So,
They understand the idea of community and freedom.
community freedom, showing up, doing the work, taking personal accountability.
Yes.
Some of us seem to want to forget that part of freedom is, it's not criticism if you're just pointing things out. And people should stand by their names, stand by their reputation, and stand by their decisions, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Exactly.
Any last thoughts? How can people get involved? Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me, director at rebuildnh.com. Rebuildnh.com is our website. Please go get signed up for our email list every week during the legislative season, January through June. I write a legislative update email.
Great.
And we have really easy ways to sign in now for all the bills, to
Nice.
send testimony. I have really good committee emails I've created. We have all the things, and we make it as easy to spend 5 minutes a week getting some legislative work in and being part of the process as possible. We do state of emergency reform, we do medical freedom, we do parental rights, we do education freedom, and government transparency and accountability.
And I think, frankly, from my perspective, New Hampshire is very lucky to have you. They're very lucky to have you in this role. You've done amazing work. I'm so thrilled and honored to know you, and I love just seeing what you're getting done. So kudos to you.
Appreciate it. I feel thrilled and honored to know you too.
So we're out of time. So I need to have Melissa as a regular guest, maybe once every other month or something,
Sounds
every
good.
3 months to check
I
in.
always have things to update.
So thank you all for joining me here on the live streaming, and of course back at home. I am wishing everyone peace, love, and understanding, and I'll be back again next week. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us here.